Alright, hello everyone! Today I'm going to try to answer the question of what should be done for patches next in Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch. Hooray! We're probably getting one in February, like late February, and then we'll see from then on out, but I want to try to tackle a little bit more what exactly I want to see going forward. So I'm going to go over some specific notes. I'm going to get this disclaimer out of the way. This is not going to be every single change that I want ever. That will take way too long. I'm picking out some of the most important stuff because it's going to have a few themes. Before we get to those themes, let's get a very small, obvious point out of the way. Points for special changes, because there's not too much I care about here. We're going to blaze through this section. There's only a few important things that I want to point out here. First off, I don't think any weapon in this game that doesn't paint, keyword doesn't paint, should be 220p. I don't care if they make, like, splatter shot 220p. That's fine. I don't want to see, like, a blaster or a bucket that isn't, like, you know, one of the non-painting buckets. Or, like, I don't know, what else doesn't paint in this game? Or a roller. Some of the rollers paint. You get the idea. I don't want to see non-painting weapons above 210p anymore. These two are outdated. They do not need to be this high anymore. They frankly never needed to be this high in the first place. Second one, turn this down. Thank you. These are all small ones. I don't care too much about them, but I think they might matter a little bit. None of these I think are necessary. Toning them down would help a bit. Oh yeah, Rapid Deco isn't even on here. I forgot about it. We could put a Rapid Deco on here. Yeah, that goes on the list. All of these can go down, but I don't really care that much. The only super impactful points for special buff I want to talk about. Also, thank you for the raid, Super Toad. The only super impactful one I want to talk about of this list, before we get into the actual, you know, normal stuff of the video, is this one. NZAP 200 to 190p. Why am I doing this? Why do I think this is a good change? Currently, if you play Tacticooler, the Tacticooler weapons are both more defensive weapons. Edit is not a backline, you know, compared to Pen. But it's a little bit more risky. Tri Nouveau is a little bit more risky, but you can pay with Fizzy Bombs really safely. NZAP is higher risk of dying while it's painting for stuff, because its range is very short. So, I think that currently, this risk is not worth it. It is much better to have a cooler weapon be something that can play more defensive. And I think how Zap used to get away with being the main cooler weapon is when it was like 180p and it was a 7.5 second cooldown. Because you didn't have to worry about that risk as much because you could do what's called cooler cycling, which is you throw cooler, you get your cooler buff, so if you die you have your special saver, and before the cooler ran out, you could farm your next cooler and use it. So even if you had the risk of dying, it wouldn't be as big a deal. Nowadays, I don't have charge up or anything on this build, right? Nowadays, that's not really as much of a thing. If I throw cooler down here, and I'm in an open, empty training range right now, right? This is easy paint right now. This is free. I'm not being contested. So the cooldown is about to run out. I throw my cooler. I paint. I throw my bomb. I paint. And I can get it right about as cooler's running out. You know, with a little bit of room to spare. That's with absolutely no contention around me whatsoever. So Zap can't really cooler cycle. Right? So, what's my point? I think if Zap is to be more competitive, it needs to have an easier time cooler cycling in order to stay relevant in this meta. So, I think the best buff you can give to Zap to make it more relevant is a points for special decrease. And that's all I think you could do. Because Zap's paint is fine. You can't drastically change the paint. It's already pretty good. I don't think you can, like, do too much to this. Like, if you know how to paint. This is good paint, right? You know, no paint tech, paint tech. But if you know how to paint, this weapon already paints plenty. So I don't think you can change that. You can't change anything with cooler. So I think you have to change it this way. And again, I think you have to do it this way, because we need things to be picked that aren't pencil or edit. And, like, the buffs to this and this have not been working. And I don't know if they're ever going to work at this point. So if this is our last bastion of hope to knock down Pencil and edit a little bit more and open up more comms, which I do think is important, even if not that important, I think this is the way you go about it. Zap still has a higher risk of dying, but in exchange it has a bit more potential for higher outputs, and then you can try to justify it as a slot. Would Zap 190p drastically change things too much? I don't know. I think Pen in all likelihood would still be better, and I don't think they can really nerf Pen any more than they've already done. But I think this is how you're going to start. Alright, let's next talk about a few goals I want to see with patches. Let's start with a big one, specials. Now before I get to the specific changes, let's talk about something they did last patch. Where is it? They buffed this special by a lot. They buffed Booyah Bomb by a lot, and it's very noticeable. Forge, real weapon now. Real supportive weapon. Not super common. We saw it in Tower Control in King's Cup, but it's real. S-Blast. Been, like, theoretically good for some time now, especially recently. Booyah Bomb was the thing that pushed it over the edge. Now it's the most, it's seen as the best blaster. And then, Sloshing Machine. If Fizzy's paint wasn't gutted in the same patch, this would have probably done a bit for Machine's revival, but unfortunately they gutted Fizzy paint. Gloogas in solo, I've been seeing doing a lot better. And then, this is kind of spam and not really too relevant, but, like, pretending these aren't drastically better after the patch is, like, a thing, So, where am I going with this? When you buff a special, it is inherently the most interesting buff you can do, because it affects a lot of other weapons. Technically, it's true with subs as well, but the sub buffs are never going to be as drastic. Special buffs bring a lot of weapons into discussion. They're very interesting because of that. And so, when we have patches, when there is no content in the game, this is the most interesting thing for bringing hype to the table. So let's go over one of these, right? Let's say we do the buffs from the Wavebreaker video. I'm not going to repeat them, right? Let's say we get those. So, we do the Wavebreaker video buffs, they get in the game. C Junior is more interesting, Range is more interesting, Paintbrush is more interesting, Leader is more interesting. Leader's already second place in Area Cup right now, in a few tournaments. Some Leader players are doing decent with it. How good would it do with the Wave buff? Range is doing pretty decent right now. How good would it do with the Wave buff? Would Dread B be, like, viable alongside Dread? Would Heavy be a good backline option, assuming this also came with, like, a Zap 190? Would this be a thing with dive comps? Would Seawell be good as an object shredder counter? Would VDS be more popular? Like, all these weapons suddenly get tried out, and they're very different weapons, right? There's, like, a Skirmisher, there's a Blaster, Support, Anchor, a completely different type of Anchor, object shredding Anchor, and all of these different weapons get to be inherently way more interesting because of one special change. So, our first category of special changes, these, are make the special weapons more interesting. So these are all specials that I think it'd be a good idea to buff, and how I would do so. Wave we talked about, triple splashdown, outside damage increase, just slightly. This is to make, like, C-Explo and direct combo, for instance. Very small damage buff, because I think triple splashdown's alright right now. Super Chump, let it work with Dually Sculpture. And then more importantly, I think Chump and Missile's cooldown is a little too long. I think they could be down just a little bit. I agree with the anti-spam stuff, but this is, like, overkill here. I think that this is very important for some of these weapons here. I think that the Chump one is important because Chumps help out a lot with CDS, which is also your beacon. It brings another support shooter to the table. It brings Dynamo to the table. It brings Bamboo, which you really want to be more competitive right now. And it gives a bow kit. Missiles gives one of the most interesting support weapons in the game a reason to be picked. Not this one. This one. Reflux. Reflux would be a very competitive support. You want supports that aren't shooters to be more competitive. Because a lot of the good support weapons right now are shooters. This is your main one. If you buff Paintbrush, this is a very interesting support kit. And then Flings is kind of already there. Maybe Wiper Deco could be there, but probably not. I think that would be fine. The big one for me, though, is Jetpack. I want Jetpack to be better. Jetpack introduces Rapid Deco, Ballpoint, Charcoal, and Sorella. A while back, I said that I thought Wave would be the most impactful one. But if I'm looking at the list of inkjet weapons right now, this is a very close second. Brella would be very interesting. It doesn't really have a whole lot of shooters or dualies to counter right now. But if anything, I think that would make its gameplay more interesting if it worked. Charcoal would be a welcome change to Mint. Like, Mint Decapitator is already very good. This has a different kit and a different playstyle. Rapid has been sorely underrepresented for a while, and Ballpoint has been dying in a ditch outside of solo queue, desperately waiting for its revival, as all Splatling players have mourned. So, like, you know, probably deserves to be back. Would these buffs, on their own, bring these weapons into the meta? Probably not. On its own, it might not be enough, but I think it's an interesting start. Next category. Small tone backs to annoying parts of specials. Things that are very irritating, and I think should be changed, because they are a little overtuned. I wouldn't say that any special weapon right now is poorly balanced. I wouldn't say any special weapon right now is particularly broken in any way right now. I think it's actually pretty good. But there are parts of the special that are very annoying. Trizuka has a big hitbox. Tri-Strike's radius is a bit large in terms of like capping zone and stuff. Big Bubbler has a little too much health. Reef Slider has zone cheese. Ultra Stamp has an outside hitbox that's very annoying. Now Ultra Stamp is terrible, but this is still kind of annoying, right? So just small tweaks to these. Barely brings down the power level of specials just a little bit. I think that's a good way to work around it personally. I think getting rid of zone cheese is a good idea. I think you can give it a creative buff otherwise, is what I would do. That's what I want to see. Alright. Let's talk about the big one for the patch. Main weapons. So, when it comes to main weapons, what I'm looking at here is that I believe main weapon power is one of the most important things to look at in this game. When 9.0 reduced like range and squeezer down a little bit, I think that they did it pretty well, but there's still a bit of a gap close. Main weapon power still needs to be good enough to force fights, and some main weapons have that power, right? Like Mint Decapitator, Splatana Stamper. Squeezer's frankly still there, and like 210 would only help it a little bit more. Like Carbon and Roller are really good. You have Slosher, but it's a little more limited, right? There are some weapons that are being picked right now that are good, like Dually, for instance. Dually Squelchers as well, or like S-Blast, that I think could be stronger. I think that there needs to be an overall buff to already decent main weapons to slightly raise the overall main weapon power to a closer level to where Slosher and Stamper are. And that is basically all the changes I want for these. It's that simple, right? You know, lightweight for all of these real quick, get them out there. H-Tree, make it a little faster. Dynamo, make it paint a little better. Sloshing Machine, get rid of some of the lag frames. Explosher, allow it to hit people a little bit better, right? Because people move very fast. Dreadringer, give it a little bit better range. Help its combat a little bit. Its paint's already good, but if it could take fights a little more reliably, its playstyle would be healthier. Ballpoint Splatling, I think they should revert the like speed nerf they gave it in S2. Maybe keep it a little bit lower here, so it's not the same as Wiper. Get rid of this random nerf they did, right? Let Ballpoint be a little faster. Let it feel more powerful. But all of these changes are taking a weapon and trying to make them feel more consistent. This is trying to make Dynamo good at painting. This is trying to make Machine good at fighting again. Make it easier to track enemies with this weapon. Make it better at its long-range combat, like its range advantage over Bucket. Allow the speed difference it has, switching between its two firing modes, to actually be more relevant. Allow the burst bomb damage combos to be more consistent, right? The idea behind most of these changes that I'm doing here is have a main weapon value that's a little bit more consistent, a little bit higher, that allows the weapon to feel a little bit more stable in its identity. I want the strengths of the main weapon to feel a little bit more prominent. And that's it. It doesn't need to be a drastic amount. Kevin, thank you so much for the $5. Patch hopes, more patch hopes. Yes, we are. Right. There's also some random stuff in here, though. For example, I played Paintbrush recently. I played this thing recently. Bavalia, thank you for the $5 as well. Never should 100% block bullets, bombs, and all sides are exposed. Yeah, I mean, that's the idea with the stamp changes. If you're going to give it a better frontal invincibility, the hitbox on the sides can't be BS because you have to go around it, right? This is Paintbrush. Paintbrush's max damage is 60. Right? That's how much it does. Let's get fall off on this dummy. Look at this damage drop off. 19 damage all the way down here. Kind of hard to hit, right? There's 35. 25. 28. It's low. It's very low. Right? It's a little dumb. I don't know why Paintbrush damage drop-off can be so bad. Like, for example, I know Ink Brushes is a minimum 7.5. That's a 14-shot kill, by the way. I don't know what... Like, I get that's exceptionally rare. That'll probably never happen. But I don't think it should be possible. Ink Brush should be a minimum 6-shot. Octobrush minimum 5. Paintbrush minimum 4. Simple. Google keeps trying to autocorrect Paintbrush to Paintbrush. I get why, but it's wrong. I can't make it go away. Speaking of Paintbrush, from my time experimenting with it, I think that Paint Nouveau would be a very interesting supportive option if it were a little bit better. I think that it's an interesting missile support. It's not a shooter. And the wind-up qualities make it very slow. If they want to lean more into the dynamo route and make it more supportive, I think it's a good idea. To do that, I think it needs a little more range. Right now, it about matches Tri-Slosher. I think it needs to be more. I don't think Paintbrush and Tri should have the same range. That's ridiculous. It needs to be more. Secondly, you know, and this will help it paint a little bit better, which I think is fair, because it's very ink-hungry. But secondly, the wind-up is the most important part. The wind-up is an intended weakness, but right now it's way too much against its favor. Dualies, again, already good main weapon. Want it to be a little better. It struggles a little bit at fighting mid-range weapons. That's its main deal right now. So make its dodge rolls go a little bit farther. Make its matchups against midlines just a little bit more bearable. That's it. A little cheaper dodge rolls. Dually Squatcher some unreliable spread. Make it a little bit better. Dowsers over here, are trying to compete for the anchor slot. They need to be able to paint. They need to be able to consistently do damage. Dowser Dually has the archetype of a very strong weapon, but its stats are out of nowhere. Like, absolutely out of nowhere. It needs more. This is what it needs to be better. Dowser should be an option for backless comps. It should fill the anchor slot, but it needs these to do it. So that's why that's important. Brellas. Brellas should be getting drastic buffs. I don't care how much the devs are looking at the game and are going, okay, it's really good right now, I don't want to tweak things too much. When it comes to this class, I don't give a shit. These need buffs. This has been 2.5 years of this class being dog shit. It has been dog shit since day one. This thing only had a brief time in the sun with an absolutely busted kit. Literal best kit they could have given it, theoretically. And it's still barely picked. And then we put things like decav in the game to make its life more miserable. Give it damage. Most of these are damage, except Recycle, which needs a shield. Just give it to them. I did 85 as a max, so it doesn't have the same as Recycle, because I know they won't do it, but you can still do the pellet damage. You can still make it 6 pellets to kill instead of 7, without increasing this max. 10 should have its old damage back. I don't think it needs that much more. 10 is still mostly fine. But I think with a lot of HP specials, giving 10 just a little more damage will help a lot, right? Recycle needs HP, Undercover needs both. Just do it. Throw it in there, right? I don't care if they don't do this one, and this one's mostly fine, but these need to happen. Brella and Recycle are, like, the most sad weapons in this game. There's one weapon I think they should nerf a little bit. A little bit of a rework, and that's Mint. And that's Mint Decapitator. Now, my biggest problem with Mint isn't to do with the horizontal hitbox, actually. But it's something I'm going to save for a main channel video. It's not a big problem, but it does annoy me a bit. But I've been thinking about Mint for a while. Mint and Stamper are not the same, but this weapon is clearly designed with accessibility in mind, right? This weapon has a very forgiving, you know, forward range, very forgiving forward range, and a very forgiving horizontal range. right? Even here, I'm hitting 80. Like, this hitting 80 is insane. Look at that. I'm hitting both. This is an entire line of width. I think that decav is tuned a little too easy. I think that it needs to be a little bit less wide. It should not be hitting people as far away as they are. However, I don't want mint decavitator's power to be lower. So I also think if you do this, you have to give it something back. So this is why this is more of a rework. So in this case, you know, 1 frame doesn't sound like a lot, but like making this a little bit faster will offset it, I think. Right? Because that means if you do this, you're moving a frame faster. That's very standard. I think that's a good compromise, right? Now, obviously, this makes it more similar to Stamper. Stamper's thinner hitbox and a little bit faster, right? And we're making decav a bit faster and a bit thinner of a hitbox. But I think they're still different enough. I think this is a healthy balance between what we have now and the vision of the weapon. Finally, all stringers. All stringers. I've thought about bow a lot for this video, because I haven't really done too much when it comes to patches with this. So, 10% is an arbitrary number I threw in there, right? Look at this with bow, and look at how small the window is for a one-shot. Look at how precise it needs to be for 1 arrow not to miss. Right? This has been bow's big problem. All of them. All of them. Right? We got a Reflux. Reflux has this a little easier. Look how close they are by comparison. See? Takes a little bit more room for me to move away from the dummy. But it's still pretty hard. Right? And yes, I know you can vertical and make it easier. Even then, obviously, the closer they are, the better. And then there's Wellstring. Right? Wellstring, I think, has it the worst. Look at how brief the window is to get these shots close together. Right? You see, as soon as there's an explosive charge, they're already spreading out a lot. Right? So, in my opinion, for all 3 of these bows, the difficulty of the one-shot is too hard. I think it is too inconsistent. And I think the only way to, or not the only way, but I think the main way they should fix this class, in terms of buffing all of these, is that that needs to be better. Because they're running out of other things to do. We made Reflux super omega mobile. We let it jump and charge at the same time, and we had to tone back its painting ability already, right? This is already nerfed. You can't buff it back because of Turf War. Hi, Kyo. We're going over patch stuff, but I hope your stream is good. So what are you going to do with Reflux? The only thing you can buff is this. The actual full charge. Wellstring. Wellstring also had to have its paint nerfed. Its explosions are already too good. You can't give it more object damage. Only thing you can do is fighting again. Going for one-shots, making them better. That's the only thing you can really do. Try Stringer. We've also buffed the paint. We've also buffed the mobility, and unfortunately, we're not doing 3rd kits right now, so we can't give this thing a better kit. So I think all the bows need a tighter spread on their one-shots, right? I think it needs to be slightly easier. This is a change that we really have to see how it'll work with time, but I think that has to happen. In addition, I think the charge times can all be a little bit faster. I think that 2nd ring charge specifically, by the way, should be faster. I don't have a problem with any of the 1st ring. Tri-Stringer doesn't need to spam AoE faster. Wellstring doesn't need a faster one-shot access. All of that. But the 2nd rings of these being a little bit faster would help. I think they're all a little slow. Technically, there's the exception of Reflux. Like, this is pretty fast. But I think you can make it faster. And I think Reflux is very important to make good. I think that this is very important to be a staple support in this game. Because I think you need good missile supports right now. Given how powerful all the specials are, having one team-based one is actually kind of nice. having some location tools kind of nice. So I think that's what they should do. Okay, let me catch up on comments a bit. Defending decav in 2025. Yes, because it's a good main weapon that enables a shit ton of other main weapons to be good. So we have to keep decav good. If you nerf decav, you're going to indirectly hurt like 20 main weapons in the game. And you don't want that. Let Wellstring die. It's for the same person. Hi, Goji. Yeah. Wellstring bullets going through shield, unfortunately, is not, like, fixable. These count as bombs. The tri-stringer Wellstring explosions, they count as bombs. So, it is not a Wellstring thing, it is simply a netcode thing. It's just bomb desync. Which you probably already know, but I'm repeating it. So there's no fix. Yeah, Wellstring one-tapping you through it is funny. Yeah, this is what I did for mid-Q. And then the rest of this is just, like, standard main weapon buffs. I did machine 2 frames instead of 3 back because, I buffed his points for special as well in this. But, like, the specific changes here don't really matter at the end of the day. I don't really care what exactly they do as long as those goals are in mind. Buff weaker specials. That would be more, what do you do for mint? I'll put it down here. Right? Tried to keep main weapon power the same, but, like, nerfed the BS part about it a little bit, right? That's what it... My hope for this is 3 things. 1, buff interesting specials so that like more main weapons are interesting. Buffing jetpack makes a lot of weapons interesting. Buffing wave makes a lot of weapons interesting. They did a good start with Booyah Bomb. If they're gonna do that for a special or 2 every patch, great. I hope there's more. I want to see... What is it? I want to see main weapon power maintained, if not slowly increased. I like some of the things they're doing in this regard. For example, I think the Luna buff was very good. Where's Luna? I don't even know where it is. This one. Luna has been dying for this radius buff for forever, and it finally has it. It's finally a real weapon. Luna actually feels like it's good at close range. This actually feels oppressive. Like, when Luna gets its spacing correctly, this weapon feels insane. And it has not felt that way for 6 years. Right? Rollers. They gave rollers their horizontal hitbox. If a carbon gets close to you, it can do this and it kills you. And it should be able to do this. And it should kill you. Right? We need that for more main weapons. Their strengths should be more noticeable. Main weapon power should go up overall. And 3, final thing, small reworks. Slightly toned back annoying attributes of the game. Nothing is overtuned balance-wise right now. There is nothing in the game right now that is too broken. Not a single main weapon, not a single sub-weapon, not a single special weapon. And that sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. Fizzy's toned back, Burst is toned back, Pencil's toned back, all the special weapons are toned back, Stamper got toned back, Squeezer got toned back, Range Blaster got toned back, all of them. Anything you can think about has been toned back already. The upper level is balanced now. Nothing is too overpowered, but there are overtuned attributes. Tactical Cooler is not OP. When have you seen Double Cooler? When's the last time Double Cooler did anything relevant? In the past 5 months. You can argue it's a staple in every comp, but I don't think that makes it broken. I don't think that makes it a need to be nerfed. Crab is, like, kind of a staple. You see Crab in pretty much every comp right now. I don't think Crab is broken. Just because you almost always see it. Splash is very common. If not Splash, sometimes you'll see Dooley. Crab Sword is pretty underrated. C-Edit is good. And, like, this is, like, decent in other modes like Rainmaker. Right? But I wouldn't say Crab is overtuned. So I think, again, what I'm saying is it's more overtuned attributes rather than any overpowered option. Cooler versus no cooler is annoying in solo. Yes. Is it annoying because cooler is overtuned, or is it annoying because other options are too weak? If you fight cooler versus no cooler and your special weapons are like Crab, Zuka, Booyah Bomb, Reef Slider, right? Like not even the top end, it feels fine. Fighting cooler versus no cooler feels shit when you also have like a wave or a hammer or a screen. Those are what make it feel terrible. When you have powerful specials, the lack of one that is a cooler is exploitable. You can win off of that, even at high X powers. So like, I agree cooler versus no cooler feels miserable, but it's not the problem of the cooler. The weakness of cooler comps isn't there when the other specials are so low. I don't feel like anything is broken and needs to die right now. Yeah, like there's nothing... I don't need any nerfs right now. I don't even think Pencil needs a nerf. And Pencil's been the one thing I've been like, okay, yeah, but they gotta tone this back, right? Pencil's too good. I don't think so. And one of the tests I ran for this was my tournament. I had a tournament where, like, I banned Pen and, like, all this other stuff, and it kind of forced other anchors to be picked. We had, like, 7 different anchors picked. And I watched it. And my thoughts were great. All these other anchors are picked, but at the same time, holy shit, all of these suck. All of these anchors are bad. They're all like a terrible deficit to your comp. They don't feel fun to build around. It feels like you lose more than you gain. And that's the problem. Right? If I want to see a leader be picked, it has to be picked because leader feels good to play around. Wellstring has to feel good to play around. Ballpoint has to feel good to play around. If the downsides outweigh the strengths, it's not fun. And if you tone back Pen a shit ton, it doesn't fix that. Yes, other HP specials helped a lot. Like Crab and Bubble being there was good. Like, a ton of people have said Zuka. Zuka is not, like, this is not a real Pen counter. It can sometimes kill it, but this is not here to kill the Pen. Crab and Bubble actually limit fucking Pen's influence. So does this, but only if you're really good. It's not accessible, right? There's like 3 people who have a zip good enough to counter good Pen players, right? It's like 3 players in this scene. It's like, it's not accessible. But most people can pick up a Crab and fight a Pen relative to their skill level, and they will probably, like, destroy it. Yeah, Zuka's for Crab, it's not for the Pen. Yeah, that's the thing. Crab now, compared to before, it has enough things that, like, do well enough against it. I wouldn't say there's any one option that, like, beats Crab. I think Crab has an advantage over pretty much any other special it matches up into. But it's, like, enough of a matchup that you have to care. You can't get blown up by a Reef Slider. You have to watch out for Hammer Throw. Jetpack can break you. Bubble can tank enough of your Crab. Caster can kill you. Zuka can kill it, right? Like, these matchups, none of them beat Crab. But all of them are relevant enough that they change how the Crab play. So the interaction is interesting. Yes, it's trade-off. That's good. Yeah, if you haven't seen the other changes, go here's the specials. I'll keep them on screen for a bit. And then points for specials in major, but it's here. I'll keep these on screen right now, for those who missed anything. Alright, does anyone have any questions, weapons they want to think about if I should tweak them, things I missed perhaps, anything you want to talk about? Because I want to try and get like my major thoughts out now, so that we're good for a while. Because I don't plan to talk about this again for a while. Unless if a patch like actually changes the game and warrants this. YouTuber, irrelevant main. Don't care. Chump should explode faster. They already did that. I don't think you can really do it again. Like, I think any faster and it becomes kind of annoying. Why isn't try 190 in the ideas? Try 200 is there. They never buff 20 at a time. I'm fine if they do try 190, but I don't think try is gonna, like, fix anything. I don't even think try 190 gets picked too much. I think 200 is enough to let it be a niche. Swig vertical or vacuum buff. That's the thing. I don't think Swig is relevant unless you buff vacuum. I think Swig's main weapon is probably fine. It's very good. But the vacuum is terrible. So, like, you could add a vacuum buff here. I didn't put a vacuum buff here. Because, like, I'm a little iffy on what it would do with the game. But, like, you can put a vacuum buff here. I'd be fine. If next patch their big buff is to vac, then, like, sure. What does that even bring, right? We get, like, B96? I forget B96 is, like, a thing. What else is a vacuum weapon? V-Jets? Okay, maybe not that one. Rapid Pro, but, like, not a troll. Charger. I like Reg Charger with vacuum. I actually like its playstyle. Ballpoint Nouveau and V10. Actually, V10 is probably the most interesting one here. It's 192. It's actually cheaper. But it's also beacon weapon. Is there a reason to pick V-Shot over Splash? It's just faster. like, your special doesn't lock you in place as much. So if you build around, like, breaking crab quickly and just moving, like, if you do, like, shot, stamp, or bucket, for instance, all of your specials are, like, insta-use and you keep going. So your comp can be very fast-paced. You can, like, potentially outpace people. With V96 versus the gray team? Oh, you played with Ant. Okay, that makes sense. Ant's, like, the only person who would pick that at this level. Yeah, I don't know. Vacuum is, like, that... When Vacuum works, it doesn't feel that terrible. Like, sometimes you forget it's actually a terrible special weapon. Like, it has its moments. That's why I'm a little scared if they buff it. Because, like, it's one of those specials that will shoot from the bottom of the top of the tier list very quickly if they do the right buff. What about subs? I don't think there's any sub that really needs balance. Like, sure, give Dart, like, a little more damage, or Mist a little bit better of an effect, but, like, I don't think it changes too much. And I don't think, like, anything else needs changes. Dynamo Vertical Flick min 50. Yes, that's on the list. I think like 96 could be a kind of an interesting support. It could be. Are Edit and Zimmy fine? Yes. I think Zimmy could be a little bit stronger. That's why I did the lightweight change. I think Edit is totally fine. We have like no Edit players, but Edit itself is fine. We just don't have the player base. But like in Japan they do. Screen changes. There's no screen changes here because I don't want this special to be good because of the accessibility problems. So I don't care. I think it's better that screen stays irrelevant. And like, what are the weapons it's on? It's on 52, which has a better kit. It's on Undercover, which, as much as I like Torp on Undercover, has a better kit. It's on Squeezer, which has a better kit. It's on Flingza, which has a better kit. And it's on Hydra, that has a better kit. So who cares if they don't buff screen? All of these weapons are inferior to their other weapon kit. Like, all of them are. All of them are just worse. So, like, this is one of the least important specials to buff anyway. Because, like, all of them are better options. 96 doesn't feel that bad. I'd imagine it doesn't feel that bad if you play, like, Decav. Because Decav does 40. So, like, I guess you can kind of play off the damage. Edit is not a real backline, but, like, it's played in the slot. But it's not an anchor. Do not look at it as an anchor. I was like, dude, my voice spiked on, like, one of the words I said. Like, in real life spiked. Big Bubble should have 10% pain inside. Thoughts? I think you missed a patch change. They're worse than the other kits because of screen. Okay. Even if you buff the screen, why do I want a Gal without a wall? I don't want Undercover with this special, ever. Like, it needs something that actually threatens to kill people. Like, Slider at least does that. Wall Zuka is just amazing. This kit's synergistic, but Wall Zuka is, like, the power kit. This is never going to be better than Mind Missile. You can buff screen 1,000,000 times. And then Hydra with the Booyah Bomb actually gives it an option when it doesn't have a charge. Which it desperately needs to be good in this game. It needs something it can do when it doesn't have a charge. So it's like, yeah, I agree the screen is part of the problem, but like, when it comes to what the main weapons need, the other specials help the main weapons more, just complete synergy-wise. So I don't want these. I'm not saying these are even terrible. Like, a lot of these are kind of decent. Like, this is okay, this is okay. This is like, these two are like kind of fine, and then this is terrible, but mostly because of the main. But I just don't think this special is, like, a priority. If they fix the accessibility stuff, sure, whatever. You can buff it. But, like, they're not gonna fix it at this point. So, I don't want it to be good. Explo should be balanced by another kit, but because it's not, I think you just have to make the main better and the splashdown combo with it. I think you have to play into it being, like, this absolutely insane backline main weapon that just, like, fights super well and can't be ran at because of TSD. Splashdown. Zip on Undercover. What? No. Not even what we're talking about. How do you rework missiles? I don't think missiles need a drastic rework. I don't think missiles are that bad ever since the hitbox change. Not even the cooldown one, the hitbox change. Missile damage feels like fairly reasonable right now. Is it still a little stupid because of like the global range autolock stuff? Of course. But like, half the specials in this game are stupid. As long as it's not like double missile or like missile whale spam, like as long as it's not enough to where I'm seeing double missile, double whale, or missile whale, I don't care. One of those specials present only is totally fine. They are annoying when there's multiple of them. I mean, I think Edit C-Explo is still pretty good. But I think if you're gonna do Edit plus an anchor, everyone's just gonna play Edit plus this instead. How can they rework Slider? You can't fix everything with Slider. You can get rid of the zones cheese and make it better at killing. Like, solo killing, not 70 radius. It's good enough. I think Explo Edit would be a lot more crazy if Explo had a better kit. How could Kraken be buffed? You have to make the jump attack better, but Kraken is, like, probably doomed. Sadly. I mean, Kraken's not even on the right weapons anyway. Like, look at this shit, dude. Kraken is on fucking 3 anchor weapons. What are we doing? Why is half of Kraken's weapons backlines? Imagine if 3 backlines had a fucking hammer. Imagine if 3 anchors had Reef Slider. Oh yeah, Kyo, I mentioned Zap earlier too. What do you think of this? What do you think of Zap 190? Because I low-key think it helps a lot. I'm kind of curious. This is the only points for special change I care about. These are just reasonable. This is the one I care about. I think that might actually help. Because then you can cooler cycle much more easily. You have better output. I think that might be worth the trade-off. Maybe. Combo, I don't know if it matters. Fair. Yeah, I mean, it helps leader a lot, mainly, I think. But it could also be good for, like, Seawell, Bamboo, really anything. Octobrush Kraken would have been fire. I don't think anything is beating the vanilla Octo Kit. The V-Octo Kit is good. Octobrush is, like, low-key kind of underrated. Like, anytime I see a team play, like, 2 to 3 short-range weapons, I just want the other team to pick an Octobrush and have a free video game. Like, just legitimately a free video game. Though I guess you can do the same thing with Luna now. Should Inkjet get its bubble nerf reverted? Probably. I think in an ideal world, bubble is a good answer to jetpack for comps that don't have the range to deal with it. Like, in theory, it makes jetpack less oppressive to certain comps. So then bubble becomes your answer. I'm fine with that. But they gotta buff it. Why did Luna go up in usage? They finally buffed the radius. The thing it's needed a buff on for forever. They actually buffed. What's the issue besides Octobrush? Octobrush isn't good versus mid-range. It's not good versus quote-unquote real team comps. But it's good against fake multi-short range, multi-support shit that some people pick. Custom Blaster when you see 3 short range is fine too, yeah. Do you think Nova would be better if it got an accuracy buff? I don't want Nova to be better. That weapon is boring. It just spams jetpack. The only reason I tolerate it is that it spams jetpack and not something else. But, like, there's also another Nova kit in the game. This one. That they better never ever make good. This will be the #1 most annoying gun on the planet if Nova was real. Like, imagine this thing getting 12 whales a game and actually just constant locating people at the same time. Like, that's just irritating, and it's not fun. I don't want to watch it. So, like, keep this weapon irrelevant. I've said multiple times, I don't think every weapon should be good. And, like, this is a prime example. Leave it. How could they buff Wolf String? What I said earlier on the stream. Do you think Machine needs better ink consumption? Just the faster shots. It's 5 frames was it was just too much. The idea to nerf Machine frames was fine, but they did too much. They jumped to 5, which is fucking insane. Decap Nova edit dually would be too far. No, I don't want to see that. The Jet Nova's not, like... How do I put this? The Jet Nova is real when the other team forgets to run an anchor. Like, if you find a team in Sendokyu that has no pen, and you pick this, you can have a field day. You run a shit ton of extra, like, SPU, so your damage radius is consistent, because Nova can fit it, and you just have a field day. You just have a super insane jetpack value, and then you run away from the enemy team and just paint everything. Combos off of Decap 80. I guess it does. Can, like, Nova... How easy is it for Nova to deal less than 20 damage? I guess kind of hard. What a weapon. It's got such a cool skin, too. Look how good this weapon looks. Hold on, I gotta pause it. Next song on my playlist is copyrighted, I think. Kind of reached the end of our music here. So I'll just loop it back. If I shot someone after a decap hit for 80 and it didn't kill, crash out. Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of funny. Dude, I can't imagine hitting someone for a Dread 90 and someone else shoots them and they don't die. Gotta have that ink brush fall off tier. Anyway. Yeah. That's my thoughts out of the way. Again, a wrap up specific things. Buff special weapons to, like, make the game more interesting. They're your, oh wow, we should experiment with all of this type of deal. Do some small reworks to rework annoying attributes, but nothing is over-tuned balance-wise. And then do small buffs to weapons to, like, what's it called? To increase the overall main power level. If you had to do a buff and nerf to Dread, what would you do? This, but by more. If I'm nerfing Dread alongside this, this is like a 5% buff. Like, this would be more. And then, like, slightly nerf its pain, I guess. I guess. But I don't think you should do that. I don't think Dread's paint is too much. I think it's perfectly fine. I think this little bit of extra damage range would just help. And, like, yes, I'm doing good with it, but, like, I'm the only person playing it. So, I think it could still be buffed, frankly. Alright. That's all my thoughts on patches, and, yeah, we'll see what happens in 1 month when they nerf Slosher and Stamper, make the game 50 times worse, and then randomly buff Killer Whale 5.1 again, and 52 becomes broken. Bye!